Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Japanese Shabaru podcast. Uh, we're going to be talking about some anime here today. First off, we have the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity, or Hana, whichever you want to pronounce it as. So, this is a romance anime, and it's really focused on a lot of character growth. So, our male lead protagonist, Rintaro, uh, Tsumugi, is a very tall person who has a very delinquent like appearance, and he's constantly berated and constantly put on as a bad person, a scary person, constantly being looked down upon, or they've been put down by himself most of the time. And it's really just, this anime will focus a lot on seeing how he grows as a person, as well as how his other lead, Karoku, Maguri, also has in a similar state, how both of them help each other grow and become closer to one another, and eventually, reach the point where their romance blossoms like a flower. But first episode, it starts off with Ritaru just looking down and out at the window, and you instantly have a sense of what Rintaro is as a person. As he puts his head down, he's in the back of the class, so you can tell he's probably goes in the back as to not cause problems for people, because he's tall, and also because he just doesn't want people to really look at him, to judge him. And he as he's constantly judging himself, so that's why he puts his head down. And the opening for Karuhana is beautiful. It's incredible. The song is amazing, and same goes with the ending of this anime. It's also, the song is amazing. The visuals are stunning. Really worth the watch. And maybe I'll break down the opening and ending at a certain point. But we go on, and we see Rintaro's friends kind of being bullied by, or being pestered by some random people, some delinquents there, and they're looking for Rintaro. But as soon as he arrives, we have them look up at him and see how tall he actually is, and how his demeanor being, first of all, he's blonde with piercing, so his appearance just looks and screams, get away, he's dangerous. And they leave right away. His friends are like, man, you're always causing us problems. They banter here and there with them, and it's really interesting seeing how Rintaro has always wanted to help people, as he tells them that they're probably looking for him because one of his friends, or their friends, recently broke up with her girlfriend, and he was trying to go there to calm him down, but because of his appearance, once again, he scares him away. So Rintaro is just really buying into this whole delinquent persona that they're putting on him. He's not really fighting it. He's just accepting of it, and that's how he's going about his day in his entire life, basically, because he always just goes with what people perceive him as, and he doesn't try to get people to understand who he truly is. And we have another part of this whole like show or anime that's really good, in which the boys from, they go to the school, Chidori, that's right next to this prestigious school for an old girls private school called Kyoko. And when they meet girls passing through that go to this school, Usumi tries to hand them something they dropped, and they pretty much reject it, saying they no longer need it, and they wouldn't touch anything that comes from him. So you instantly see that there's a bit of like friction or conflict between the two schools, because the Shidori school is viewed as a school for old delinquents and people that are not necessarily the best students, whereas suppose the Kyoko girls are the ones that are the brightest. So like they kind of don't want the two to intermingle. So there's this prejudice, just already said, that these girls fall fall into against the Shidori boys' school, and we have another instance where Rintaro kind of wonders, like, man, I wonder what's really happening. Uh, and he gets a text from his parents, like, okay, you got to come in and help out the store. So he you can see he wants to be able to hang out with his friends, but because he's always on call for his parents, he instantly goes in to help them, and nobody really knows that he works for his parents' workshop. So we have Rintaro just kind of like secluding his life, kind of like building a wall up between him and his friends. Like, since they don't know he works there, they're kind of like in the dark as to what he does. And even like Isumi later points out that Rintaro kind of has a wall between them. So you can tell that even though Rintaro considers them friends, he still is not feeling vulnerable enough to really open up to them, open up about his feelings, open up about his life to them like that. Meanwhile, they're more than ready to be able to hear him out and understand him. And I think that you can really tell that they're just waiting for the chance to be able to help Rintaro, because they know what kind of person he is, and they know that he would do the same for them. And now we have Rintaro working at the store. This is where we meet the female lead, Karuku, and she notices that Rintaro is looking at her and blushes, and Rintaro is just kind of like wondering, man, she eats a lot, and then after a while she just kind of like finishes eating and leaves. So once again, Rintaro is like, man, I probably just scared her off again. So once again, Rintaro takes the blame as to what is happening, as to how she reacted, and basically just considering his own appearance, considering her reaction, he just feels he is to blame for her running away. But it's not the case, as when she returns back, she apologizes for leaving like that, and kind of like gives a hint that she has some sort of feelings towards him, because she said that with him staring at her, she kind of got flustered and he made her heart race. And she let him know that she doesn't find him at all scary, and it wasn't because she got scared of him. She knows you can tell she knows kind of like the character Rintaro is, because as stated in there, he kind of notices, oh, so she's seen me before, like, so this isn't our first encounter. That wasn't our first encounter when I scared her off the first time. So Karuko, being a regular visitor, probably has seen him work there from time to time, and maybe she's gotten to see how he acts and really get to know him as a person, as opposed to buying into his appearance being that of a delinquent, being that of somebody that she should stay away from. And Rintaro just couldn't believe that she viewed him in that way. After he like lets her go to her own place, he goes to his room and starts wondering, like, wow, I've never had that happen to me. And you see like a little mini flashback of the kids constantly berating him, saying he looks scary, like his looks don't match the fact that he works at a bakery with his parents. So ever since he was a child, he's just been judged based on how he looks, and you can really tell that has affected how he views himself now. The stuff that they've said to him as a child has affected him to the point where he now buys into it, and he is always blaming himself for everything. But as a little bit later on, the mom returns to see Rintaro, and she tells him like, hey, Wagari left her cake that she was taking home. Like, you need to go find her. And when we do go find out, like, where Karuku is. She is being kind of like bullied, kind of being pestered by the people earlier in the episode that were pestering Rintaro's friends, and they were like kind of like telling her like, "Hey, you should have some fun with us," and it's like you should stay away from Rintaro. You see how he looks? He's a delinquent. He even goes to the school full of delinquents, and if you keep hanging out with him, there's no good that's gonna come from that. But Karuko, being the pure soul that she is, just instantly like refuses all that. She tells him straight up like, how can you judge somebody that you've never talked to? How can you judge somebody that you've never spent time with? How can you buy into these rumors when you're not even trying to see or understand the person Rintaro is? So I really enjoy that aspect, that Karu is always there defending Rintaro, even though she doesn't know that he is around the corner. She doesn't like that people are bath mouthing him behind his back. Because she understands and she knows the kind of character he is, the kind of person he truly is, and she understands that all this stuff that they're saying about him can be possibly true because she has spent some time to actually talk to him and got to see that his actions don't match that label that they're putting on him. So Rintaro goes, as they're trying to hit her, he goes and blocks the punch and ends up hitting his head on the wall, and then turns around and scares the living life out of them once again. And he couldn't stop, but even though that he was the one that was bleeding, and Karuko was trying to like comfort him, he couldn't stop himself from saying he's sorry that he put her in that position once again. He takes the blame for everything that's happening. He feels responsible because he is the one that they were looking for. He is the one that scared him away the first time, and now that they kind of figured she was spending time with him, they went after her. So he puts all this on himself, and we get another like mini flashback of his, how as once he's more older, like around middle school age, he once again was looking down. Like, as you see him, he doesn't really look up. Whenever you see him, he's always looking down, and you can see his expression is that very like depressed, very sad person, where he's saying like he never once was given praise, and no matter what, everybody always looked at him as a bad person, or as a delinquent. But now that Karuku has and he never really wanted people to give him praise or understand him, but now that he has been given praise, he has been understood by Karuko, he's like, oh, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I can want this again. I can want to live. I can want to be able to be understood and be able to be looked at as a good person rather than a delinquent. And there's beautiful shots everywhere of Karuko like trying to get the blood off him, and just them together. There's have this whole air around them that's so beautiful. And as Rintaro finally goes and takes her to the train station, and she's walking away, she lets him know, hey, how about we get a cake again next time? And that just brightens Rintaro's world, as this is the first time that somebody has actively wanted to be around him, has actively wanted to see him and talk to him. And it's like a brand new world is opening to Rintaro, which I just adore how well Cloverworks is animating this project. So good. And as we cut away from that beautiful moment that they shared, we have Kaoru looking back at what happened and how when Rintaro went to block the punch, she held her, um, and she felt like her shoulder, like trying to remember the warmth that he just showed her, the warmth that he carries. Once again, just picturing Rintaro as the good person he truly is. And the episode ends off with Rintaro looking out the window and realizing that Karuko actually goes to Kyoku High School. So really, really love this anime. I cannot stress enough how good this anime is gonna be as a manga reader. It is a 10 out of 10 episode. You should go watch it. And once Netflix releases it officially, you should go and support it once again. And that's all I have on Hikaru Hana. Up next, we have Lord of Mysteries, episode 3. So this episode kind of kicks off right as some people are using their nightmare abilities to interrogate a person, and it's usually they're trying to find out more info about the notebook of that they're looking for these past few episodes. And given that, I guess I have to really go into depth a bit about how a lot of people have been not knowing what the plot going forward for Lord of Mysteries is, like what's happening with it. So, quick little tangent here. The first 2 episodes were essentially just setting up what's gonna happen, and what's happening is our main character Klein is trying to get back to his own world, and he obviously tried to do this ritual that would have worked in his prior world that he thought was going to be able to bring him to back to Earth, and it didn't work out. He ended up opening up a divine realm instead. But essentially, moving forward, now he's going to be working with the Nighthawks, to sort of like try to gauge if the beyond abilities are going to be able to allow him to go back to his own world. And meanwhile, while he's doing that, the whole plot is of the first 2 episodes was to find this notebook that's supposed to give clue as to what happened to the murder of this prestigious family. So that's essentially what I gathered was the plot of the first 2 episodes, and hopefully hopefully people are coming to understand that, or after rewatching the first 2, it'll be easier to understand what the plot is going forward. So yeah, and this episode, on episode 3 though, we get introduced to the Secret Order, or at least we get sort of like a teaser as to what they're capable of. As they let us know that the Secret Order is an ancient organization that has ties to the Solomon Empire and some of the fallen nobles from that empire. And basically what they do is they they go on and do tracking and searching as one of their main focuses. So like Secret Order's actually trying to find this notebook that has gone missing. It's probably very prestigious, and they needed to either hide what they're doing or to further hide what happened. Maybe they have something to do with it going missing. I'm not quite sure. Either or. I think it's interesting that we have 2 secret kind of organizations trying to go for it. 1, the Nighthawks, and 2, the Secret Order. So really interesting stuff as we get introduced back to some of the prior character, the Dali, the girl that was trying to find info from Klein to see if he knew where the notebook was. Klein initially had sort of like in the previous episode had like a vision of a person that could help him find the notebook. So they're trying to track this person now, and they try using his ability as they try using Klein's ability as a seer to try to locate him, but he couldn't do that because there was an even greater force that was trying to prevent any sort of like beyond their ability from reaching him. So they had to resort to more drastic measures, and they're like, well, looks like we're gonna have to use the sealed artifact to track him down. So they have this sealed artifact, 2049, which is like this puppet thing that basically can control people and turn them into puppets. So before even like being introduced to what it was capable of, uh, people were shaking their hands up and down, constant movement, and Klein was like, "Well, this is kind of silly. Why are they doing that?" And then he started mimicking them, and he realized, oh, they're really just doing this because any person that starts slowing down or stops moving has been affected by this sealed artifact. And these sealed artifacts are not only dangerous, but they always come with a risk of being of endangering anybody that's come in contact with or comes close to them. So they're usually sealed in these special chambers to prevent them from ever getting loose, from ever being used unless absolutely necessary. Which this was a case where they were like, okay, we're gonna need to really use this to find out where this guy is because we need to find this notebook ASAP. And we see that there's this ritual kind of happening with the guy that they're looking for, and the guy that they're looking for kind of turns into a monster-esque type of thing. I think his beyond ability kind of like overtook him, and we have this clown person that was right there witnessing it. He's like, "Oh, I arrived a bit too late." So he waits in the shadows and sees that our Nighthawks are actually at the scene now, and they're trying to get this guy under control. So there's a bunch of like great action in this episode that I cannot overstate how worth watching. And throughout here, we were kind of left wondering, like, okay, this type of thing is kind of like really dangerous, and they really needed to use all the other people from that had like a sequence 7 in order to get this job done. So like when they saw Klein, who was just like a sequence 9 guy, they were like, okay, well, shoot, this guy's probably gonna hold us back. Like, why are we bringing him here? Especially since he's a seer, he doesn't have any combat abilities. Like, why is he here? And Klein kind of had to go into that. Well, knowing that he might be their downfall, or might be the one that weighs them back down. But as they kind of get to it and they are able to get the notebook, they really relied on Klein. Really used a lot of his ability to be able to get the notebook for them. And the clown guy tries to appear after they get everything done, and it was really interesting that he was able to use like illusion magic. And not only that, but Klein kind of deduced that he also, well, being able to use illusion magic or illusion type of ability, he's also kind of able to perceive what people were gonna do. So instead of like when he was aiming at him, instead of aiming for him, he aimed at a spot where he was most likely to go, and actually end up hitting him. So really smart of him to do that. And we know that this clown guy is another 7 sequence guy, or possibly even higher. So this guy was just using this fight to kind of plot a way to get them closer to the sealed artifact, so that they could all be affected by the sealed artifact. And in doing so, he was going to be able to take away the notebook and kind of mosey down out of there. But as everybody was being affected by it, Klein noticed, like, okay, well, shoot, everybody's pretty much done for. I need to do something. And he remembers about his divine realm that he's able to conjure up or able to go into, and he uses that as a way to plan and kind of plot his way out of this situation. So he goes there, and when he comes back, he's able to move again and kind of takes this guy by surprise, and eventually leads him to where the sealed artifact is. So that guy was starting to get affected. But I do like that this clown guy was trying to persuade Clyde to like turn on everybody, kind of see where his morals were, whether he was gonna be one that betrays people or one that actually goes and helps people. And I like that he kind of chose that that he wants to help the current people he's with. But also, the clown guy gave him a very interesting tidbit of like how to reach sequence 8, and that was like he has to drink the clown potion, as we know. And it's really interesting that we have people that have to keep taking potions, and in doing so will be able to upgrade their own abilities. So afterwards we just kind of see um, Klein kind of just be praised by everybody after that. After he gets the guy taken out, he shoots him in the head and then between the eyes, and the clown guy really gets up and is screaming like Hornicus or something like that. Hornicus. And then falls flat. And I do like that they point out, oh, he was a part of the secret order, and we see this tattoo on his forearm. So I'm assuming everybody in the secret order is just gonna have that tattoo. And then afterwards, everyone's like, "Oh, you're just a CR9. You really outdid yourself this time around. I can't wait to see what you do in the future." Because now everybody's seeing that Klein is more than what he looks and more than what his paper says about being a CR9. And one of the guys that notices is the same guy from the previous episode that took interest in him, and he lets him know, listen, sometimes there's people like us that are above being special. So we know that guy has another ability that he's keeping secret, or we can kind of assume that he has another ability that he hasn't showed everybody. And I'm really interested in to see how him and Klein kind of develop the dynamic, or like what his plans for Klein is, and just overall a really great episode. I also do like the ending portion of it where Klein kind of decides I should go back and visit my history teacher, who the history teacher also seems to be part of the secret society or secret order, or definitely a secret organization, because he warns Klein that he that it's good that he likes history, but he shouldn't wander into forbidden areas because he could be stepping into misfortune. So it's kind of a very ominous warning. I'm sure Klein took notice of that. He seems like a very smart individual, and just kind of like just putting the notebook and the way that the guy was screaming Hornices just makes you wonder, like, a lot of things are kind of connecting, and this guy knows more than what he told Klein. And I'm interested to find out where the story goes now that they have their notebook, and Klein wants to continue on and figure out what happened. And especially now that the notebook's there, maybe there'll be something on about the missing day that there's no record of from his own notebook. And yeah, overall this show is incredible. Great. This is probably the best episode so far that they've produced, so I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. The Summer Hikaru Died, episode 1. So another great anime by Netflix recently coming out. I love that the title is about the summer and it comes out in the summer. Really great stuff. So this episode just starts off kind of morbid, where somebody is out there looking for Hikaru, which we later find out is his best friend or his potential love interest, Yoshiko. And they couldn't find him, but something does end up finding Hikaru, as it seemingly he seems to be passing away or not coming back to life. So we later see Yoshiko and Hikaru hanging out together, and it's all fun and dandy. They're like kind of bantering with one another. Yoshiko's kind of making fun of the way Hikaru's talking, like his pronunciation is off, and how he doesn't remember anything that happened during the week that he went missing in the mountains. And it's almost seemingly like there's a lot of hints to something is wrong with Hikaru super early on, and then Yoshiko just comes out and asks this Hikaru, "Hey, are you actually really Hikaru?" And while he's doing it, he's kind of trembling, kind of scared to ask, because this looks just like Hikaru, talks just like Hikaru, has the same memories as Hikaru, but Yoshiko notices something is something just feels off about him. And lo and behold, he fesses up. He is not Hikaru, but he would like it if he kept on thinking he was Hikaru, because otherwise he might end up having to end him as well. And it's really frightening because he hugs him and it's kind of like you can see Yoshiko's not necessarily feeling the best about it. Like he instantly is like scared for his life, kind of wondering what comes next. And yeah, they get to talking, and Yoshiko kind of is like, okay, well, I'll just keep pretending like you are Hikaru. So we get a little flashback of the day prior to Hikaru disappearing in the mountain, and how they were talking about their life heading into like high school, and how like Hikaru was constantly teasing Yoshiko about, hey, you should, if you find a girlfriend, you're still not gonna get rid of me because I'm just gonna be right there. And how like the last impression that, or the last talk that they had together was about how Hikaru got a bad impression of like one of the teachers. And you can really see that Yoshiko's really feels guilty about that, because as he's at his home, he starts crying himself after waking up, after realizing, man, Hikaru's really gone. And his way of coping with it necessarily it's not the best, because he's both grieving him and kind of seeing him, this entity that is now Hikaru, and kind of is forcing himself to pretend that's Hikaru. And meanwhile, he hasn't really processed him leaving, and processed all the stuff that comes with mourning a lost one. And there's another interesting part where Hikaru and Yoshiko see this movie at school, and this entity starts crying while watching the movie, and then Yoshiko kind of points out like, hey, why are you crying? Like me and you have seen this movie like 5 times already. And this entity kind of points out, yeah, I have memories of it, but like this is still my first time experiencing this movie. And that's really interesting aspect of this, because this entity not only is Hikaru now, but like he holds all the memories, and technically he should know how it feels and how this movie made Hikaru feel. This is still like his first time actually experiencing those emotions and actually trying to be human, which is another aspect that I really enjoy. This entity wants to be human so bad that while being Hikaru, he is experiencing things for the first time, and he is really being human for the first time. So it's really interesting seeing that dynamic, as we have this guy that's Hikaru experiencing everything at first, and Yoshiko, who is obviously trying to cope with the fact that he knows his love interest, or his best friend, just is technically dead. He's just trying to fool himself into thinking this is the real Hikaru. And Hikaru's not really dead, as long as this guy looks like Hikaru and acts like Hikaru and is able to talk to him like Hikaru would. So really great stuff. We also have things in the background kind of building, where there's this guy with like markings on the back of his neck that is looking for monsters potentially, or like the thing that is probably taking over Hikaru. So it's really interesting that while all this stuff is happening with Hikaru and Yoshiko, there's other stuff that is playing behind the scenes that's going to play effect, I think, later on. And I really love having this montage afterwards of just Yoshiko and this fake Hikaru just going around sightseeing, and Yoshiko kind of wants this Hikaru to tell him, hey, what else would you like to see? Kind of like trying to feed him into experiencing more things, and essentially just wanting to experience more things with Hikaru as well. So this is his way of kind of realizing the love that never flourished because he was too scared to tell Hikaru he liked them. And at one point, he asks them, like, "Hey, do you like me or do you love me?" And this entity just replies, "Yeah, I like you." And he realized Hikaru never said that to me. So now we have a even greater reason for him trying to cope with the fact that this entity is Hikaru, and he really wants to buy in to the fact he is Hikaru so that he can experience things that with Hikaru he never got to experience with the real Hikaru. Uh, Still, it's gonna it while at the same time he's still crying himself to sleep, still mourning the fact that now that he's experiencing these things with the this entity and not Hikaru, he it's almost like he's betraying Hikaru, so he's also feeling guilt over wanting these things with the fake Hikaru instead of the real Hikaru. Um, but yeah, we also meet this old lady that looks at this entity and calls it a Nonuki. I think is like the bird. What I'm gonna start. What it is the actual name of this creature, and even more so, like a lot of people are noticing that no, this Nonuki is gonna be Hikaru, and I think as we later find out, this Nonuki is doesn't want anybody to know who he is. He wants to just experience life as a human and not have to worry about having to kill anybody or end anybody's life. He wants to be able to live life as a human and not as a monster that he is, which is really interesting. We have a monster wanting to be humanified, and we have Yoshiko who has to dehumanize himself in order to appease this monster and also appease his own grief of losing Hikaru. Really interesting stuff. Episode ends off with this Nonuki ending the grandma that was scared of him, and now the guy that was looking for him is or looking for monsters like him earlier in the episode is like, well, looks like I'm going to this village where this Nonuki or fake Hikaru is, and yeah, I really love I'm really loving this anime. The animation's great. The music is amazing. I really am interested to find out what this whole purpose is of keeping this Hikaru appearance. Like, what is the monster gonna gain from being Hikaru? What's he gonna do once he is no longer fulfilled by being Hikaru? What's gonna happen to Yoshiko? Is he gonna learn to accept Hikaru's death and actually betray this monster? And or is he really gonna buy into the that this is Hikaru and never actually process the grief of losing his best friend slash love interest? Just really interesting stuff. For this first episode, I think I better say 8 out of 10 for me. My Dress Up Darling, episode 13, season 1, episode 1. So my Dress Up Darling is finally back, and I'm really glad it's back. I really hope this is just as good as the previous season, and we dive more into how Gojo and Marine continue to grow in their relationship, and hopefully we get to see them actually be in one this season, or if not, in the next one. But this episode starts off with Gojo actually watching this anime, and he's like usual, he watches the anime that Marine wants to cosplay a character from, and he takes his notes, tries to figure out how this new how to best go about making her new cosplay outfit. And I really like that in this one. It actually seems like this is the one we have seen Gojo be more enthusiastic about, in which he actually takes a bit more pleasure in watching this one. He finds it funny, he finds it entertaining, and he's actually talking a bit about positively about it with Marion in a way. And he does want to know which one Marine wants to cosplay, and he thought it was gonna be the the office lady, but it turns out it's actually one of the workers, the bunny girls. And that's what Marine wants to cosplay as Aisha, I think it was her name. And they get into talking about how like bunny bunny suits are in the norm or in the rage because they're like very popular. Like they're used as to advertise everything, and Go's like, oh yeah, well that explains why I've seen it a lot. I've seen it a few times in TV being advertised with things being advertised with bunny suits and all. And now Marion actually, instead of like the previous time, she actually wants to do a proper photo shoot in a proper studio, which at first Gojo was a bit reluctant because like last time you told me about getting a photo shoot done, we ended up in a love hotel, and you get a call back to the previous season of when they were there, and it's Marion's like, no, it's not gonna be like that this time around. I'm actually gonna I actually rented an actual studio, proper studio this time, and I love how more flirty Marine is now with Gojo, as she tries to have Gojo give Gojo a pokey, but instead of like giving him like an actual whole stick, she goes in and tries to get him to bite the other end of hers, and it's like, just kidding, pretty nice. Like just seeing how much more comfortable Marin is getting teasing Gojo and stuff, and then Noble comes in. She comes in and she starts seeing how Marin is kind of being more friendly, more flirtatious with Gojo, and now kind of starts putting things in her own head like, you can see that wheels are turning. Maybe she's thinking that they could possibly be dating and stuff. And then we have Gojo ask Marine to come over to his house. So Marine is pretty much freaking out because this is the first time that properly that Gojo has explicitly said like, hey, I need you to come over real quick. And at first she thinks it's like for something completely not related to cosplaying. And when she arrives, she's like, of course it's about this, and it's because Gojo couldn't figure out how to get the bunny suit from falling from the breasts, and it was like Gojo didn't realize that uh, they needed something else, and they go into the store to try to get this like straps for it so that it could hold them together. And I do like that the gentleman that, or like the old man that was in the store, kind of looked at Gojo kind of funny when he asked like where they are, and he was like where the bunny suits are, and or showed him the picture of the bunny suits, and it was like, oh, I guess all the young people are into anything this type of day. So like he was very old school mentality where like he couldn't fathom a boy asking about the bunny suit outfit and putting it on himself. So but once he saw Marion, he's like, oh, I'm sorry for misjudging you like that. Funny stuff. Um, but then they come to realize that there's actually more to the bunny suit than they originally thought. Which Gojo's like, oh, shoot, I didn't really like do my research this time. Like usually, whenever I have questions or I don't know anything, I usually Google or research what it is that I need for this to create a certain type of fabrics needed. And I gotta say it was fun. It was funny seeing Gojo kind of lament that, and also like you could really see how much care he puts into his craft, where he uh, he puts himself down like, oh, I'm so stupid, I should have known better. Like he realized then and there that he was being full of himself because all his other cosplays have been so perfect that he figured like this is the one. This one seems pretty simple, it wouldn't need that much work to it. And turns out because he didn't research some of the things he thought he knew about it, it ended up not coming as perfectly as he thought. So I think this is very good for Gojo's growth, and also realizing coming to realize that everything moving forward should always be properly researched so that he they don't run into this problem again. And yeah, I really also am enjoying the fact that even after all this happens, and they also have like a bit of mishap where prior to going to the store where like Gojo accidentally saw Marin try on the bunny suit, but the problem was he saw the underwear and he completely got flustered. And Marin was like, "It's okay, you know, you've already seen me in my swimsuit. It's fine. It's basically the same thing." And of course, Gojo being the a 15-year-old boy, this kind of like riled him up a bit more than he anticipated it would. And then we have the same issue happen at when they were like doing their photo shoot finally, where Marin was wearing some wearing stockings, and Gojo can't seem to fathom the fact that she isn't actually wearing those because it looks just like bare skin. So he's still getting a bit riled up, and he's losing focus. Like just simple movements Marine make him think of other things that a 15-year-old boy would. And I love that the narrator points that out in this episode, where it's like he's just a 15-year-old boy, so to him this is kind of like ecstasy, or kind of like really riling him up, and he is unable to actually focus on taking the actual shoot. But aside from that, I love that this episode later ends with a bit more inner perspective of Gojo and how he feels. And Marine invites him over to this Halloween party that they're holding with Noah and some of her other friends, and everybody's kind of like pointing out, "Oh, Marine, your makeup looks so good, and you really look like a different person when you're cosplaying." And Marine is like, "Yeah, my agency even doesn't even realize that it's me cosplaying." And then they ask Gojo like, "Hey, are you the one that does her makeup?" And this one guy was like, "Isn't that like kind of strange? You are a boy. Like typically boys don't necessarily know how to do makeup, so how do you know?" And then Gojo gets flashbacks to when Noah, the girl, his childhood friend, kind of put a remark on him that he's weird because he likes dolls and likes doing makeup of the dolls and stuff like that. Nothing like a boy would do his age. And lucky for him, he's instantly validated by another guy that's there, because he's like, "Oh, yeah, guys can do makeup. My brother's a makeup artist. He works with makeup all the time." And it's like, "Oh, that's so cool. Like, damn, so it takes a really nice amount of skill." So instant gratification for Gojo that he never really experienced. So you get to see him kind of think about that, like, "Hey, usually people find me weird. Like, people that like I'm not used to people actually acknowledging my skills in this. I'm not actually I actually don't know how to handle being praised by something somebody else found weird once in my childhood." So for Gojo, this is a whole new experience, a new first. And I like that Marine's the one that's first. Marine was the one that acknowledged his skill and really made Gojo comfortable with liking things. And now it's her friends are also validating Gojo for the things he likes to do. So it's really interesting that now Gojo is like, maybe it's not so creepy after all. Now he can really focus on not caring what people necessarily think, but being accepting of his own individuality and his own likes. And then we have the end of the episode where Noah just kind of straight up asks if Gojo and Marin are dating. So really great way to start off the season for My Dress Up Darling. I think I'm giving it a 8 out of 10. Really great stuff. Secrets of the Silent Witch, brand new anime. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from this one. It's technically about this witch that's one of the 7 sages. So basically, she's one of the 7 most powerful mages in this world. And the good thing about it is she's OP, but she's also has a very glaring weakness to her, which is that she's shy and constantly anxious around people. She doesn't really know how to get over her own anxiety. So that's really what holds her back for most of it. And of course there's the plot of her going to go back to the academy thanks to one of her 7 sages colleagues or whatnot. So this story takes place in this kingdom that is constantly being raided by dragons, and it is said that most most of the times you meet a black dragon is when every hope is completely lost. But and we see one of those appear right as our main protagonist Monica, the Silent Witch, starts to appear, and basically it jumps us off to what happens afterwards, where it's just Monica just back at her own home. She's very secluded. It seems to be just a random house in the middle of the forest. She's surrounded by a bunch of textbooks. She's been doing a lot of equations. So this one little girl shows up and comes to brings her food and all her other needs, and essentially she lets her know like, hey, I saw one of these mages guys come to try to get with you. But this little girl ends up bringing Lewis along with her, giving him directions to where Monica was, because he has told her explicitly that he wants to go see her. And Monica's kind of like, oh, you're kind of like a math whiz just like her. So like, figured like, Monica's out there alone. She could use some company. And this is where we learn about what makes Monica special. Is that in this world, humans aren't supposed to be able to manipulate mana without incantations, but because Monica is able to do so, it brought about like a great shift in the world, and kind of made her one of the strongest, because while others had to rely on incantations, she, alone with her own imagination and her own perseverance to not want to be able to speak in front of people or to talk to people, developed this sort of trait to be able to do it. So it's like an anomaly. She made the impossible possible. But unlike her, nobody else has been able to replicate this. So that's why she was dubbed as one of the strongest at such a young age. I think she was like 16. She's 16 at the time, and Lois is in here trying to get her to do his job, because apparently he has a mission to protect the second prince once he enters this academy. And so because Lewis has to be there protecting him, and he can't really be there protecting him like how he wants, because the prince wants to be protected, but with that being like really noticeable, it makes it like the perfect job for Monica, who doesn't have to incantate anything to be the one that protects the prince. But not only that, there's also this other difficulty around to it, where because nobody can know that she's the Silent Witch, Lewis makes up this whole backstory of her, how like there's this girl whose mother rose her up from poverty and had a really happy life, but then eventually the mother ended up passing away, and the daughter of this mother starts mistreating her, and basically this person becomes a servant to the daughter. That's the role she has to play, as well as being able to protect the prince. So now we get like she's playing two roles, one as a protector and one as the servant to this noble that is entering school. And to be able to do this, she kind of has to get in the favor of this other princess that she didn't actually know at first, but then once they started meeting, she realized that this princess actually means well to her. Like, this princess actually acknowledges her strength and knows she's all powerful. Like, she even decides, look, I'm gonna be the one that helps you out during this role. I'll play the role of the evil daughter, and I'll make sure to mistreat you whenever people are around, so that your cupboard never gets blown up. And this is where we find out what really ended up happening once the Black Dragon arrived, and once she arrived at the scene, and how it was just this beautiful animation of how magic was just like coming from the sky, raining down thunders, and how she was able to obliterate every single dragon that attacked the kingdom. And because of that, the princess feels like she's indebted to her, and that's why she asked to be allowed to play this role in order to help her. So really interesting stuff. I do like the cat familiar that uh, Monaco has Nero. It seems like he's gonna be really nice comic relief moving forward, and I do love how well connected you can feel to Monica. How people within societies can actually be be seen and have this way to real have this way to showcase what it means to be socially anxious and how to over. Hopefully, we get to see how she overcomes that social anxiety through the season, and maybe going back to this academy will uh, enlighten her or make her break out of her shell and finally be able to talk. And not only that, but hopefully, or perhaps be able to use different spells that require that can only be done through incantations. But she's so powerful that when the dragons attacked, there was like no casualties. So I thought that was really interesting. It's a really nice, cozy anime so far. I hope moving forward we get to see more of the action we saw towards the end of the first episode, and really dive more into Lois and the other seven sages, because it seems this anime in this series has a lot to offer in terms of world building and in terms of how we came to be in this world that's kind of dominated by dragons and how the other people kind of oppose it. So I'm looking forward to that. And with that, I think I'm gonna rate it a 8 out of 10. And if you enjoy what I discussed, the anime I talked about, just leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and until next time, bye.